Everyone must have heard the proverb that a salt is a unique character. Its presence is not felt, but its absence makes everything tasteless. Yes, you all are correct. Today I am going to talk about salt life. This is a video creating awareness program for the appropriate use of salt in daily diet and adverse health effects associated with excess salt consumption. But why did I choose salt? Because many new home cooks are experimenting in quarantine, and many people like me are just sitting the whole day in the house and eating whatever they find. While doing this, most of the people do not keep track of how and what amount of salt they are consuming every day. It is important to track the intake of salt because salt acts as foremost electrolyte in body. High salt intake has claimed to cause a number of health problems, including high blood pressure and heart disease. I would like to inform people about the importance of salt in diet apart from counting sugars and fats. So before we start talking about the adverse health effects, let us talk what is salt. Salt is a mineral composed primarily of sodium chloride, that is NaCl. It flavors food and is used as a binder and stabilizer. It is also a food preservative because bacteria can't thrive in the presence of a high amount of salt. Initially in the olden days, salt was used as a food preservative. The human body requires a small amount of sodium to conduct nerve impulses, contract and relax muscles, and maintain the proper balance of water and minerals. Here are some types of salts commonly available. Firstly, iodized salt. The most common kind that is used, iodized salt, often known as the table salt, is the most easily available type of salt. It has a high content of iodine and hence it is called as iodized salt. Secondly, pink salt. Himalayan rock salt is also known as pink salt because of its pale pink color. Himalayan pink salt has a high mineral content and hence people prefer it due to its health benefits. Thirdly, kosher salt. Kosher salt or kitchen salt is edible salt with a larger grain size than typical table salt and without common additives such as iodine. Like table salt, it consists mainly of sodium chloride and it may include anti-caking agents. Now let's talk about the benefits of salt. This mineral plays an important role in how our body functions. Here's a look at why we need the salt. Firstly, it helps thyroid function properly. Our thyroid plays an important role in metabolism, but for our thyroid to work properly, our body needs the mineral iodine. And iodine deficiency prevents our body from producing enough of the thyroid hormone. Because iodine is also added to most salts, having some iodized salt in our diet can help our thyroid function properly. Secondly, it keeps the body hydrated. Salt also promotes healthy hydration levels and electrolyte balance, which is necessary for organs to function properly. Our cells, muscles and tissues need water, and salt helps these parts of our body maintain the right amount of fluid. Thirdly, it prevents low blood pressure. An inadequate amount of sodium in our diet can also lead to low blood pressure. Lastly, it improves symptoms of cystic fibrosis. People living with cystic fibrosis lose more salt in their sweat than the average person, so they need more water and salt in their diet to avoid dehydration. Now that you know how salt can help us, here's a look at how too much salt can hurt us. Firstly, it increases water retention. If we eat too much salt, our kidneys may not be able to filter excess sodium from our bloodstream. Sodium builds up in our system and our body holds on to extra water in an attempt to dilute the sodium. This can cause water retention and bloating. Secondly, it damages our cardiovascular health. Excess water in our body can put added pressure on our heart and blood vessels, triggering high blood pressure. This is a leading cause of heart attack and stroke. The risk of heart disease is higher when a sodium diet is accompanied by a low potassium diet, because potassium helps excrete sodium from our body and helps to relax blood vessels. Thirdly, there is a higher risk of osteoporosis. The more salt we eat, the more calcium our body loses through urination. And unfortunately, if our body doesn't have enough calcium in our diet, the body will take it from our bones, increasing the risk for bone problems like osteoporosis. Lastly, it may increase our risk for the stomach cancer. There's also evidence suggesting that a high salt diet increases the risk for stomach cancer. So just like everything, consuming salt in a proper amount, that is from 5 grams to 7 grams per person every day, will help us to maintain our health. Here are a few tips to help you cut back and eat less salt. Firstly, eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. We should skip processed foods like cured meats, canned goods, baked items and frozen food, and spend more time to produce isolate. Secondly, read labels. Don't purchase canned goods or processed items with more than 200 milligrams of sodium per serving. And remember that a product labeled as no salt may have other ingredients that contain sodium. Next, cook without salt. Experiment with herbs and spices for flavoring, such as oregano, garlic, chili powder, rosemary, and other seasonings in our cupboard. Also avoid adding salt at the table. Prepare your own food. Restaurant items contain higher amounts of sodium to keep the food fresh. Cook your own food to control the sodium. Still, if you wish to go to the restaurants, then before eating out, check a restaurant's nutritional meal online to find the low sodium selections. Lastly, be mindful of natural sources of sodium. Meat, dairy products, bread, all contain sodium. So be sure to regulate your intake of these foods if you are watching your salt intake. Next comes few fun facts about salt. So, salt was so valuable in ancient Rome that soldiers were sometimes paid with it. In fact, the word salary comes from the Latin word sal for salt. When a soldier was doing a lousy job, his paycheck might be cut, which is how we got the expression not worth his salt, which means that this job is not worth him. Secondly, historically, salt's value came from its ability to preserve food. Venice in Italy may be famous for its canals now, but till the end of the 13th century, salt imports fueled its rise as an influential trade power. The Dead Sea, around 10 times more salty than seawater, is only the 5th saltiest body of water on the earth. The Don Juan Pond, a 10 centimeter puddle in Antarctica, is the most saltiest body of water. It has a salinity of over 40%, which ensures that its water rarely freezes. So a salty thank you to everyone, and be sure to keep the track of the salt you consume every day.